I watched this Love-In yesterday, under the auspice of The Gloves Are Off, between Anthony Joshua and Francis Ngannou, Spence.
Yep.
What do you make of it?
I thought there was a lot of respect between the two of them, to be fair. I watched it as well. But I think that Anthony Joshua knows what he's going into, and that's where he's got the benefits of that from the Tyson Fury fight. He knows that Ngannou, forget Ngannou's only 0-1 as a boxer, the guy can fight.
Sure
he can clearly fight. And Anthony Joshua, see, stylistically, Ngannou really fancies his fight against Joshua because Joshua's one of them guys that likes to come forward. He likes to sit in the pocket, and he's a totally different, different person to the one of Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury is very elusive. He's awkward. He's difficult to pin down. Whereas Joshua, you know what you're getting. It's sort of like what you see is what you get. He comes forward and it's all one-dimensional, and but he's very explosive. But stylistically suits Ngannou because Ngannou, what he proved against Fury, you'll probably agree with this on me, is that when Fury punched, Ngannou punched with him. So what he lacks in speed, he made up for in timing. Now that's problems for Anthony Joshua. Because Joshua's one of those guys that likes to sit in the pocket. He's very explosive. But if Ngannou throws when Joshua throws, anything can happen. So I think that Ngannou clearly fancies the fight.
Because he questioned him, didn't he? Ngannou suggested that he'd seen Fury get up from absolute big shots.
Yeah.
And he kind of politely suggested
that Joshua
wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Albeit we've seen Joshua take big shots against Klitschko and dig himself out of that hole.
But what I took from Joshua was that he recognised what he was going into. Although he was there, and Joshua said to him, "Listen, we'll fight, and I will fight. I know that Joshua will go safety first in this fight. He won't make any silly mistakes. He won't take any stupid chances. I think that Joshua will go out there and he'll box sensibly, and he'll try and sort of chip away and try and break Ngannou down for maybe a late stoppage or a wide points win. But that's the way I see him boxing safety first."
When I was watching it, with no discreditation or trying to be so clever with anybody, I sat there watching it thinking, how have we got to this point in elite heavyweight boxing? We know Ngannou can have a fight, right? Because he wouldn't have achieved the things he's achieved in the octagon if he can't have a fight.
Yeah.
Right? So we know that, right? But how have we got to a point where the so-called best heavyweight of a generation, arguably, debatedly, in Tyson Fury, and now the former two-time heavyweight champion of the world are now fighting a UFC fighter ahead of everybody else in front of the queue, and it's been made into this spectacle they're supposed to have substance. I sat there scratching my head thinking, why is this happening? I know why it's happening, because I'm not going to be overly facetious. It's because Saudi money is dictating.
Yep.
But how are we accepting this as some sort of meaningful set of circumstances?
I think the crossover, I think it's the whole crossover thing. I think
there is an element crossover thing. What you've got to do, you've got to accept that boxing isn't a sport. It's a business, isn't it? If things were on sporting merit, then there's absolutely no way whatsoever that a boxing debutant fights the heavyweight champion of the world.
That's my point.
But it's a business, and we have, as Spencer just alluded to there, boxing's kind of let itself down for a long period of time, where boxing promoters have been telling us that we're getting to the Champions League final on a regular basis, but really we've been getting games out of League Two, and that's been going on forever and ever and ever. And the audiences are getting fed up with it. They're going away. They're looking at MMA. I'll go and be a fan of that. I'll go and be a fan of something else. And
but what does it tell you?
Well, the influencer space has now kind of filled this gap.
Yeah.
So therefore, boxing promoters are looking at, well, hang on a minute. Okay, guys with big audiences, let's leverage that in the world of boxing.
Okay, put the commercial side to one side, which I can read that room quite easily. Yep. But what does it tell you about the elite heavyweight boxers of this generation? Because we had this discussion last week, didn't we? We talked to Frocci about this generational set of fights. See that Frocci bit there? Just dropped it in.
Am I allowed to call him Catman now? Is that...
No, you're not allowed to call him
right,
Catman, because he's a serious expert pundit and he doesn't want to be called Catman.
He weren't happy about
it. But you look back on the fighters that have gone before in the Ali era, when you talk about Ernie Shavers, you talk about George Foreman, you talk about Joe Frazier, you talk about all these elite fighters that were there. Then you go to the Larry Hagman, he's from Dallas, isn't he? Larry Holmes era, where he didn't get the credit he got, but he still fought great fighters. And you go into Tyson, and he fights Tyrrell Biggs, and he fights Michael Spinks, and he fights Trevor Berbick, and he fights whoever else he fights. But they're all really good heavyweight champions. In this generation, I now look at it and go, how are the best heavyweights being matched against a UFC fighter, and all of a sudden we're going, oh, this is the credit to the boxing world? I think it's an embarrassment to boxing. Because you wouldn't have a boxer go into the octagon and last 5 minutes. And Carl was saying it last week. If I went into the octagon, I don't think I'd last very long.
Yeah.
I think you're right regarding the embarrassment factor. I mean, the most embarrassing situation for me in that whole scenario was when the president of the WBC, Maurizio Sullivan,
Awarded a new belt.
well, he came out and he said there wasn't any credible opponents in the top 10.
Yeah.
So Tyson's tried to make a fight with this person. He's tried to make a fight with this person. There's nobody else credible in the WBC top 15, so we're going to allow him to have a non-title fight. He didn't defend his belt at all last year.
But
that's a sad indictment, sadly, on heavyweight boxing.
Listen, you mentioned the business side of things, and boxing is a business side, and Ngannou, you know, wanted to get into the boxing space anyway, but it's bringing a big crossover. We've got to recognise that we are in a changing of the times, and the investment of the Saudis...
This isn't crossover, Spence. This is just two fights for money.
The investment of the Saudis are going to get the best boxing, the best, and we are going to get the best of the modern generation and the modern era.
Well, we'll see, won't we?
But had that investment not been made, do you think that we would have ever seen like Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury or Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk? I don't believe we would have.
Well, I'll answer that question. Depends if there was realistic expectations of what they expect to get paid.
Well, that's why.
If you want to sit there and think, if you think it's my job and your job to give Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua 75 million quid each, then no, that fight probably wouldn't have happened. But it isn't my job. It's the market value, and if you can't get £150 million for a fight, you fight for 50 and 60 million quid in the UK. And there's something to be lost and something to be gained. The Saudis have every right to do what they're doing, and we shouldn't be begrudging that. But on the flip side of it, they then make the rest of the fights look like they're poor fights in terms of the economics, and nobody wants them unless they're fought in Saudi.
But what I'm saying, where fighters are being protected, especially at the top with the heavyweights, and the politics of the sport have always broke these fights down, like different broadcasters, pay-per-view splits. Pay-per-view splits. And that's why the fight's not being made, because he wants 50%, he wants 50%. That's not good enough. I want 60, he wants 40. The fight breaks down and goes away. Saudis have taken that away now because they go, you're getting this phenomenal amount of money, you're getting this. So at least we are, like on the flip side, at least we are.
And that's why they're all on stage. It's not because everyone's a brilliant deal maker.
Yeah.
Because if you can walk around the room going, how much do you want? How much do you want? How much do you like? Yes, 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 yes. Then all the promoters look like they've done a wonderful thing when actually all it is people getting paid exactly what they want.
But we'll have an era where you're getting the best fight.
Well, I hope so.
Where we would have missed that. I'm sure we would have missed that. When you go back to like your Ali, Holmes, Foreman, Ken Norton and all those guys, they'll box the best. I think we will get that of this modern generation now that we have this investment.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. What did you take away from Ngannou? I mean, I think all his Christmases have come at once. I don't think he can quite believe that he's in a situation where he can command and demand the kind of money he's got from being a... And by the way, not just a novice, someone that has fought for 18 months and come back from a knee rebuild.
Yep.
So let's have it right while we're really doubling down on what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
But Ngannou, to me, is really relaxed. I think it's dangerous for Anthony Joshua, this one, because I think that despite the surprise has gone, and the fact that everybody maybe not you, I don't know what your view on it, did you think that Tyson Fury was going to walk through Ngannou?
He should have done.
Should have done, right? So then by this logic, do you think Anthony Joshua should walk through Ngannou?
Yeah, he's got more data.
Right.
Francis Ngannou, I think my takeaway from Francis Ngannou against Tyson Fury is that he surprised a lot of people. There would have been people going into that saying, this guy can punch, he's the heaviest hitter in the world, he's got a puncher's chance. And that's it. Nobody's got the receipt to tell me that they thought he was going to go in there, shape up southpaw, have a wicked jab, great timing off the back foot, and stay back foot, not being super aggressive. He showed that he has some serious, good fundamentals, keeps his form, and there's a lot there. Anthony Joshua is working with Ben Davison, who's a great brain. They'll have seen that. They've now got some data. They've got something to work towards. We now know that this kid can box. There will be a game plan in order for him to be able to go in and do a job on Francis Ngannou. All the things are still there for Francis Ngannou. My experience of him in MMA is that he's a phenomenal freak athlete. Look how he's developed as an MMA guy from just a striker into being able to wrestle and jiu-jitsu and all these types of things. He will develop. He'll definitely be better than what we saw against Tyson Fury. But we're talking about a two-time unified heavyweight world champion, Olympic gold medalist, and the guy that seems to have got his mojo back.
Right.
If he doesn't go in and do a job on Francis Ngannou, there's something seriously wrong, because that then is a bad indictment on boxing. We're talking about a guy that's been doing it all his life against a guy that's had one fight and lost
What's the job look like? When you say do a job on him, what's it look like?
I don't...
Box his head up or knock him off?
Ideally, you want him to stop him. But we're talking Francis Ngannou, who's a very, very tough man. Nobody stopped Francis Ngannou in 4-ounce gloves, so in full boxing regalia, I don't think he's going to be able to do that either. I think he should win every single round and do it to the extent where at the end of it, 8, 9 and 10, we're thinking maybe his corner need to pull him out of here because he's getting his head boxed off.
I think he does get pulled out. I think that's what happens because Joshua goes and he slowly, systematically breaks him down, picks him apart, and just doesn't take any stupid chances. And I think that's how he gets him out of there. He just breaks him down, and you maybe see Ngannou retire on his stall or something.
I don't think he'll quit. I don't think
it's not about him quitting. It's about his corner pulling him out.
Yeah.
It's not about him quitting. It's about. But I just think it's going to be. I think that Joshua will make it. Listen, it's all set up for him lovely, isn't it? Because of the performance he put in against Tyson Fury, it's a win-win now for Joshua because he's going in with this guy, and it's all about him doing a better job than Fury done.
Yeah.
And that definitely happens.
And I think there's an element of that going on anyway.
Absolutely.
In the Joshua Fury camp, which is we'll do what you've done, we'll do it better.
Yeah.
Which is the question I was going to ask you next about this performance against Wallin. You just said that you think that Joshua's got his mojo back.
Yeah.
And that mojo is the ability to put himself in harm's way and unload, right?
Yeah.
You think that's back now on the back of that Wallin performance? Are you still sort of, here we go again now with Anthony, as a result of the Wallin performance, or are you in the camp that Wallin wasn't all he was cracked up to be?
No. Listen, it was a banana skin. I genuinely thought that Wallin would ask him some serious questions. Wallin is coming off the back of that fantastic win against Gassiev. We saw him, what he did with Tyson Fury. He gave him hell in Las Vegas. I genuinely think the team up of Anthony Joshua and Ben Davison is working for him. I don't know what they're doing in there, whether it's just a mental thing, making a few tweaks here and there. We saw the development of Anthony Joshua in the Hellenius fight slightly. Yes, it was boring. Yes, it was dull. He delivers the knockout, but his footwork was probably some of the best that we've ever seen. He just didn't let his hands go. He got in there, and then he's like, "Well, hang on, I'm not staying here. I'm coming out the back door."
Against when he did both.
When he got in there, he let him go, and he didn't let him go in ones and twos. He let him go in threes and fours, and we saw the best version of Anthony Joshua that we've seen for a long period of time.
It's a psychological
absolutely
thing.
between his ears.
It's about confidence in believing in his own ability, and I think that is all it's about with Joshua, and I think that he's got that momentum now. So to answer your question, I think the mojo is definitely back, and I think that Anthony Joshua now believes in himself much more than he did because of the consistency.
Because everybody said it was gone. Every fighter that I spoke to, when I spoke to Carl, well, yeah, because you're on the payroll.
No, it's not. It's not because I knew I was right.
Because you can't see it well because your head's buried up Anthony's backside off the
Was I right?
Well, you may be.
No, admit it. I was right.
Well, yeah, but
everyone else was wrong, and I was right.
Dollars for donuts. If you'd have asked me at the beginning of the year, right, would he beat would he beat Jermaine Franklin? Would he beat Hellenius? And would he beat Otto Wallin? I'd have said yes to all of them. The question still abounds. Will he beat Tyson Fury?
After he beat Franklin, you said he's gone. He's got nothing left. He ain't coming back. There's no.
I said he's showing no indication of doing anything different.
I said you're wrong.
Well, that's true, and that's
fair.
But
in Sam's defence, the majority of people. I was like, you watch the Franklin fight and you think.
But the point I'm making is everybody said it. Other fighters who know more damn sight more than I do, they've been there. Like I asked Ben McGuigan in one of the other things I do. He was like, lights have gone out. Ask Carl Froch, lights gone out. And once those have gone out, they don't tend to come back in and come back on. It's like turning the pilot light off on a boiler and being able to try to reignite it. You can't sometimes because it's gone. But you guys are now saying, no, hold on a minute. This is potentially a reawakening and a re-emerging.
And I think it's the team up with Ben Davison. I think
it's fact.
I think it's the thing that he's doing with Ben in that gym.
He's believing in his own ability, mate. He's having the confidence to believe in it.
But he's obviously
got that back.
He's obviously got somebody in that team that has enabled him to find that.
Ben Davison has pulled that out of him.
But then he's got to go and deliver it, and he did it against Wallin. And now, away we go.
Is that he's active. That inactivity
That's
played
a
big part on
I'll give you
Anthony
that.
Joshua's performances.
I'll give you that.